I'm Harper, 31 years old, and I'll never forget the moment my entire world shattered. It was Christmas Eve at my parents' cozy house in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. The scent of pine and cinnamon filled the air, and soft carols played in the background. Our family was gathered around the decorated tree, exchanging gifts and laughter. My brother Garrett, 35, suddenly stood up from the couch. His face had gone pale, almost ghostly. His hands trembled as he clutched his phone. The room fell silent. He looked at me with wild, desperate eyes and said in a shaking voice, "I'm overwhelmed. I need you to pay for the Hawaii trip now. Like, right now." The air turned cold. My mother Diane gasped. My father Raymond frowned deeply. My younger sister Bryn stared at the floor. That's when everything I thought I knew about my family started to crumble. Before we dive into what happened next, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. If you're already hooked by this story, smash that like button and hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this unfolds. Now, let me take you back to how this nightmare began. Growing up, our family seemed picture perfect. I was the youngest daughter, always treated with warmth and affection. Garrett was the golden child, the firstborn son who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. He worked as an accountant at a prestigious firm downtown, lived in a beautiful two-story house in the suburbs, and had a stunning wife named Juliet and two adorable kids. I, on the other hand, worked as a nurse at the local hospital, lived in a modest one-bedroom apartment, and was still single at 31. My parents, Raymond and Diane, had retired 5 years ago and lived comfortably on their savings and Social Security. We were a tight-knit family. Every Sunday, we gathered for dinner at my parents' house. Every holiday was a celebration. We trusted each other completely. 6 months before that devastating Christmas Eve, Garrett proposed something special during one of our Sunday dinners. He stood up with a glass of wine and announced that he wanted to take the entire family to Hawaii. It would be a celebration of our parents' 40th wedding anniversary, a milestone worth commemorating in paradise. The plan was ambitious. 8 people would go, including my parents, Garrett's family of 4, myself, and my younger sister Bryn. Garrett estimated the total cost at around $30,000. That included flights, a luxury resort, meals, and activities. He smiled confidently and said, "Don't worry about the logistics. I'll handle all the bookings. Just Venmo me your share and I'll take care of everything." I was thrilled. This would be the trip of a lifetime. I immediately transferred $7,500 to Garrett's account. That money represented 2 years of careful saving. Every extra shift I picked up, every time I skipped going out with friends, every dollar I tucked away was for something special. And this felt like the perfect use of those savings. Bryn also sent her portion, as did our parents. Garrett promised us the best of everything, a 5-star oceanfront resort with private balconies overlooking the turquoise water. Business-class flights so Mom and Dad could travel in comfort. Snorkeling excursions, sunset dinners, spa days. He sent us links to the resort website and talked endlessly about the itinerary. For months, the Hawaii trip was all we talked about. Mom bought new sundresses. Dad researched the best fishing spots. Bryn and I browsed swimsuit sales online. The excitement was intoxicating. But as November rolled around, things started to feel off. Garrett became distant. He stopped responding to group texts about the trip. When I called to ask about flight times, he was short with me, saying he was busy at work. Juliet, who usually joined our Sunday dinners, started making excuses not to come. When she did show up, she looked exhausted and barely made eye contact with anyone. I asked Garrett directly in mid-November about the confirmation emails for our bookings. He snapped at me. "I'm still finalizing things. Stop micromanaging." Bryn texted me privately one evening, her message filled with worry. "Do you think he actually booked anything?" she wrote. I defended Garrett immediately. "He's just busy with work. You know how demanding his job is." I replied, though a small knot of anxiety had started forming in my stomach. By December 20th, 5 days before Christmas, my patience was wearing thin. I sent Garrett a direct message asking to see the hotel confirmation and flight itinerary. I tried to keep my tone light and friendly, but I needed to know that everything was real. His response shocked me. He called me within minutes, his voice dripping with anger. "You don't trust me? After everything I've done for this family? I've been organizing this entire trip, and all you can do is question me." I stammered an apology, trying to explain that I just wanted to prepare properly. He cut me off. "I can't believe my own sister doubts me. Maybe I should just cancel the whole thing." Then he hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like it'd been slapped. What had I done wrong? I was only trying to help. That Christmas Eve, after Garrett's shocking announcement, the entire family demanded answers. My father Raymond stood up from his armchair, his face red with confusion and anger. "What do you mean the money is gone, son? Explain yourself right now." Garrett collapsed back onto the couch, his head in his hands. Tears streamed down his face as he sobbed openly. "I lost all the money. The Hawaii fund is completely gone." My mother gasped and covered her mouth. Bryn's eyes went wide. Juliet, sitting beside Garrett, stared at the floor without expression. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. "What do you mean? Gone?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Garrett looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "I invested it in cryptocurrency. My friend Maxwell promised me we'd triple our money. He said it was a sure thing. But the market crashed last month and we lost everything." The room spun. $30,000. Gone. My father stumbled backward and sat down heavily. My mother began to cry. Not the gentle tears of sadness, but the deep, broken sobs of someone whose dreams had just died. Garrett kept apologizing over and over. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing something good. I wanted to surprise you all with extra money for the trip. I wanted to make it even more special." But his words felt hollow. How could someone be so reckless with money that wasn't his? How could he gamble with our dreams? Then Garrett did something I'll never forgive him for. He turned to look directly at me, his tear-streaked face suddenly hardening with determination. "But you can fix this, Harper. You're single. You don't have kids. You don't have a mortgage or car payments. You have savings. You can help us make this trip happen." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The air left my lungs. "I already gave you $7,500. I managed to say, "That's everything I have." Garrett's voice turned cold and sharp. "Mom and Dad sacrificed everything for us growing up. They worked 2 jobs each to put us through college. They never took vacations for themselves. This trip is for them. Are you really going to be the one who ruins their 40th anniversary celebration because you're too cheap to help?" I looked around the room desperately, hoping someone would come to my defense. My mother was looking at me with pleading eyes, as if silently begging me to save the day. My father said quietly, "Harper, honey, maybe you could help out? Just this once? We'd pay you back eventually." Bryn sat in the corner, arms crossed, saying absolutely nothing. She wouldn't even look at me. Garrett pressed harder. "I always knew you were selfish. You've always been the one who thinks about herself first. You never cared about anyone but yourself. This is just proving it." Each word was like a knife twisting in my chest. How had I become the villain in this situation? I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't lost anyone's money. Yet somehow, I was being blamed. The entire family waited for my answer, their eyes boring into me with expectation and judgment. My voice came out small and broken. "I need time to think about this," Garrett scoffed. "Of course you do. Take your time while Mom and Dad's dream dies." I stood up on shaky legs and walked out of the room. Behind me, I heard my mother crying harder. I went upstairs to my childhood bedroom, the same room I'd slept in growing up, with its faded floral wallpaper and shelves full of old books. I lay down on the narrow bed and stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. Something wasn't adding up. Garrett had been so confident about this investment. Head talked about his friend Maxwell before, bragging about how smart Maxwell was with money. But Garrett was an accountant. He worked with finances every single day. How could he make such a catastrophically stupid decision? And why had Juliet been so silent during the entire confrontation? She hadn't defended him or comforted him. Shed just sat there like a statue. And why was Garrett's first instinct to blame me and demand I pay for his mistake? The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. By the time the sun rose on Christmas morning, I had made a decision. I needed to find out what really happened to that money. On December 26th, the day after Christmas, I waited until I knew Garrett would be at work. I drove to his house using the spare key Head given me years ago for emergencies. My hands shook as I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The house was quiet and dark. I went straight to Garrett's home office, a room he kept meticulously organized with filing cabinets and a large desk. I felt terrible invading his privacy, but I had to know the truth. I started going through the filing cabinet drawers, looking for bank statements or investment documents. What I found made my blood run cold. There were bank statements from October showing large withdrawals from the joint account Garrett shared with Juliet, but there were no cryptocurrency purchase confirmations, no transaction receipts from any investment platform. Instead, I found credit card bills with charges to places called Sapphire Lounge, Diamond Resort Las Vegas, and Golden Palace Casino, page after page of gambling charges. Thousands and thousands of dollars spent at casinos, both online and in person. My brother hadn't invested our money in cryptocurrency. Head gambled it away. I took photos of everything with my phone, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold the camera steady. I needed to talk to Juliet. I texted her and asked if we could meet for coffee. She agreed, though her response was hesitant. We met at a small cafe on the outskirts of town, far from where anyone we knew might see us. Juliet looked terrible. Shed lost weight and had dark circles under her eyes. When I slid into the booth across from her, she wouldn't meet my gaze. "Juliet, I need you to tell me the truth," I said gently. "What really happened to the Hawaii money?" She shook her head, tears already forming. "I can't. Hell, kill me." That phrase sent chills down my spine. "Kill you? Juliet, what are you talking about?" She broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. Through broken sentences and gasps for air, Juliet told me everything. Garrett had been gambling for 2 years. It started small, just occasional trips to the casino with friends. But it spiraled out of control. Had lost tens of thousands of dollars. When she discovered it 6 months ago, she confronted him and he promised to stop. But he didn't. He got worse. He started borrowing money from dangerous people, loan sharks who charged outrageous interest rates. "He owes them $50,000, Juliet whispered. "They've been calling the house. They came to his office once. They threatened to hurt the kids if he doesn't pay." I sat there stunned. This was so much worse than I'd imagined. "The Hawaii Fund," Juliet continued, wiping her eyes with a napkin. "He never intended to book that trip. He planned from the beginning to take everyone's money and use it to pay off part of his gambling debts. When that wasn't enough, his plan was to manipulate you and your family into giving him even more." I felt sick. He planned this? He deliberately set out to scam his own family. Juliet nodded miserably. "He told me his exact plan. He said you were single and had no major expenses, so you'd be the easiest target. He said he could guilt you into giving up your savings because you always wanted to please your parents." I couldn't breathe. My own brother had calculated how to psychologically manipulate me. Had weaponized my love for my family against me. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. Though I already knew the answer, Juliet's voice was barely audible. "He threatened to take the kids and disappear if I said anything to anyone. He said He'd tell the court I was an unfit mother and I'd never see them again." I was terrified. I still am. I reached across the table and took her hand. We need to do something about this. He can't keep hurting people. Juliet squeezed my hand but pulled away. I can't. I have to protect my children. Before I could respond, the cafe door swung open. Garrett walked in. His eyes locked onto us immediately and his face contorted with rage. He stormed over to our table. So my own sister is spying on me now, he snarled. Several other customers turned to stare. I stood up to face him. You lied, Garrett. There was no cryptocurrency investment. You gambled away our money. His face turned bright red. So what if I did? Do you have any idea what kind of pressure I'm under? Do you know what it's like to have people threatening your children? His voice was rising to a shout. That money was going to save my family and you're acting like I committed some kind of crime. It is a crime. I shot back. You stole from us. You planned this from the beginning. Garrett took a step closer, towering over me. You think you're so perfect, don't you? You're just a nurse making $50,000 a year, living in your pathetic little apartment with your pathetic little life. I'm the one who made something of myself. I'm the one who has a real career, a real family. You're nobody. His words cut deep, but I refused to back down. At least I'm honest. At least I don't lie to the people who love me. Garrett's hand shot out and he shoved me hard. I stumbled backward into the table, pain shooting through my hip. Other customers gasped. The barista reached for the phone, probably to call the police. Juliet jumped up and grabbed Garrett's arm. Stop it! Let's just go! She pulled him toward the door, whispering urgently. Garrett jabbed a finger at me. Stay out of my life, Harper. I'm warning you. Then they were gone. I stood there shaking, adrenaline flooding my system. The barista came over and asked if I was okay, if I wanted her to call the police. I shook my head, though I probably should have said yes. I just wanted to get out of there. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Juliet. I'm sorry. He saw your text on my phone this morning. I should have warned you. Please be careful. Garrett worked fast. By that evening, Head already called an emergency family meeting at my parents' house. He didn't invite me. I only found out about it when my father called me an hour later, his voice stern and disappointed in a way I'd never heard before. Harper, your mother and I need to talk to you. Can you come over right now? My stomach dropped, but I agreed. When I arrived, the living room felt like a courtroom. My parents sat on the couch, Bryn sat in the armchair, and Garrett stood by the fireplace like a prosecutor preparing his case. Juliet was notably absent. Before I could even sit down, my father spoke. Garrett told us what you did today. Is it true that you went through his private financial documents without permission? I opened my mouth to explain, but Garrett cut me off. She broke into my house, Dad. She violated my privacy. She's been trying to turn Juliet against me. She's trying to destroy my marriage and my family. My mother looked at me with such disappointment that I wanted to cry. Harper, how could you? That's a violation of trust. I finally found my voice. I found proof that he's been gambling. He lied to all of us about the cryptocurrency investment. He deliberately planned to steal our money from the beginning. Garrett's performance was masterful. His eyes filled with tears and his voice cracked with emotion. Yes, I have a gambling problem. I admit that. But I've been getting help. I've been in therapy for 3 months now. I made a terrible mistake, and I was going to find a way to pay everyone back slowly, over time. But Harper found out, and instead of supporting me like family should, she's using it as ammunition to humiliate me in front of everyone. He turned to our parents, his face a picture of wounded innocence. I'm sick. Gambling addiction is a disease. I need support, not attacks. But Harper doesn't care about that. She just wants to make me look bad. My father stood up, his face grave. Harper, did you or did you not go through your brother's personal papers without his permission? I hesitated. Technically I had, yes, but I had a good reason. I needed to know what happened to our money. Raymond's voice was ice cold. That's invasion of privacy. You crossed a serious line. I'm very disappointed in you. My mother added, her voice thick with tears. Garrett is going through something difficult. He needs our love and support right now. But you're tearing this family apart with your accusations and your snooping. I looked at Bryn desperately, hoping my sister would back me up, but Bryn just looked down at her hands, refusing to meet my eyes. Bryn, you know I'm telling the truth, I pleaded. She finally looked up, but her expression was neutral, almost cold. I think everyone needs to calm down and work this out privately, she said diplomatically. That non-answer felt like a betrayal. Garrett continued his assault. Harper has always been jealous of me. Ever since we were kids, she's resented my success. She's single and lonely, and she can't stand that I have a beautiful family and a successful career. This is her way of trying to drag me down to her level. My mother actually nodded, as if this made sense. Maybe there's some truth to that, Harper. You've been alone for so long. Maybe you're projecting your unhappiness onto your brother's situation. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own mother was psychoanalyzing me, suggesting that my legitimate concerns about being defrauded were actually just jealousy. I'm not jealous, I protested. He stole from us. From you. Don't you care about that? My father raised his hand to silence me. Garrett has agreed to pay us back in monthly installments. He showed us a repayment plan. Hez taking responsibility. But you need to apologize to him for invading his privacy and for the scene you caused at that cafe today. Garrett told us you were yelling and making accusations in public. That's not how this family handles problems. Everything was being twisted. Somehow I was the villain. I was the bad guy, the person who had done nothing wrong except try to uncover the truth. I'm not apologizing, I said firmly. Garrett is lying to you. Has manipulating all of you, and you can't see it. My mother stood up, her face flushed. That's enough, Harper. If you can't be supportive of your brother during his time of need, then maybe you shouldn't be here at all. Those words hit me like a physical blow. Was my own mother telling me to leave? The silence that followed confirmed it. Garrett stood by the fireplace with his arms crossed, a tiny smirk playing at the corner of his mouth that only I seemed to notice. He was enjoying this. I walked out of that house feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my entire life. As I sat in my car in their driveway, my phone buzzed. It was Bryn. A small flutter of hope rose in my chest. Maybe she was texting to apologize, to tell me she believed me. I opened the message. Harper, I think you should drop this whole thing. It read. Garrett talked to me earlier today. He explained everything. Has already paid me back $1,000 as a good faith gesture. Has really trying to make things right. My hands started shaking. He bought you off. I typed back. Her response came quickly. It's not like that. I just think dragging this out publicly is going to hurt Mom and Dad more than it helps. They're getting older. They don't need this stress. I called her. She answered on the third ring. Bryn, he's lying to you. That $1,000 is part of his manipulation. She sighed heavily. Harper, I know you're upset about losing your savings, but you're the only one still single with no real responsibilities. You can afford to let this go. The rest of us have mortgages, kids, bills. We don't have the luxury of holding grudges. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This isn't about holding grudges. This is about justice. Bryn's voice turned cold. Or maybe it's about you needing to be right. You've always been stubborn. Maybe this time you should think about what's best for the family instead of what makes you feel vindicated. The line went dead. My own sister had hung up on me. I drove home in a daze. When I got to my apartment, I found an envelope that had been slipped under my door. Inside was a handwritten note from Garrett. Stay out of my business or you'll regret it. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I locked my door, threw the deadbolt, and sat on my couch in the dark. Every person I loved and trusted had turned against me. I was completely alone. The week between Christmas and New Year's is usually a peaceful, reflective time. For me, it was hell. On Sunday, our traditional family dinner day, I didn't receive the usual group text about what time to arrive. I checked my phone obsessively, thinking maybe the message hadn't gone through. By 3 in the afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. I texted my mother directly. "What time is dinner tonight?" Her response came an hour later. "We've decided to have a smaller gathering this week. Just immediate family. Just immediate family." As if I wasn't immediate family. As if 31 years of being their daughter had been erased overnight. I drove over anyway. I needed to see them, to try to make them understand. When I pulled up to their house, I could see cars in the driveway. Garrett's SUV, Bryn's sedan. They were all there. They just didn't want me there. I walked up to the front door and knocked. The sounds of conversation inside went quiet. Footsteps approached. My father opened the door but didn't step aside to let me in. He stood in the doorway, blocking me. "Harper, what are you doing here?" he asked. His tone wasn't warm or welcoming. It was the tone you'd use with an unwanted solicitor. "It's Sunday, family dinner," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He shook his head slowly. "We need some space right now. Your behavior lately has been very concerning. Your mother and I think it's best if you take some time to think about your actions and come back when you're ready to apologize to Garrett." Tears burned behind my eyes. "Dad, I'm the one who was wronged here. Garrett stole from me. From all of us." His face hardened. "No, he made a mistake. You violated his privacy and spread lies about him. Those are not the same thing. Come back when you're ready to make this right." And then he closed the door in my face. I stood there on the porch, staring at the wreath hanging on the door, hearing the muffled sounds of my family laughing inside. Without me. The public humiliation came next. On New Year's Eve, Garrett posted on Facebook. The post was carefully worded, vague enough to avoid direct accusations but clear enough that everyone who knew us would understand who he was talking about. "It's sad when family members choose money over love. Going through a hard time and instead of support, facing judgment and betrayal. Remember that family should lift each other up, not tear each other down during moments of weakness. Grateful for those who truly understand what loyalty means." The post got hundreds of likes and dozens of comments. "Stay strong. Real family sticks together. Some people only care about themselves." My phone started blowing up with messages from extended family members I hadn't spoken to in months or even years. My Aunt Emma sent a long text. "Harper, I don't know what's going on between you and Garrett, but I'm very disappointed in you. Your brother has always been there for you, and this is how you repay him? Money isn't more important than family. You need to fix this." My Uncle Theodore called me directly. "I heard you're causing problems for Garrett. That boy has worked hard his whole life. Whatever issue you have, you need to let it go. Family sticks together no matter what. That's what we do." Cousin after cousin, aunt after uncle, all of them had heard Garrett's version of events, and all of them believed him without question. I tried to defend myself. I replied to a few messages, trying to explain that Garrett had stolen money from me, that Head lied about a family vacation, that he was manipulating everyone. But my explanations sounded weak and petty compared to Garrett's narrative of being a struggling man unfairly attacked by his jealous sister. One cousin replied, "It sounds like you're just bitter that he's more successful than you. Let it go and move on with your life." That comment got 17 likes when she posted it publicly on Facebook. By the second week of January, I'd stopped trying to defend myself. What was the point? No one believed me. My phone that used to buzz constantly with family group chats and messages now sat silent for hours at a time. I went to work at the hospital, came home to my empty apartment, and sat in the dark. I kept checking my bank account as if the numbers would magically change. $1,200. That's all I had left after paying rent and bills. 2 years of saving. Gone. No family, no support, no justice, just emptiness. One night I sat at my kitchen table with a bottle of wine and my laptop. I opened my email and started writing. "Dear Garrett, I'm sorry for going through your papers. I'm sorry for confronting you. I was wrong to invade your privacy. If you can forgive me, I promise to never bring up the Hawaii money again. I just want our family back. My finger hovered over the send button. This was what everyone wanted from me. A full surrender. An admission that I was wrong even though I wasn't. The erasure of everything I knew to be true. I closed the laptop without sending it. But the fact that Id even considered it showed how broken I was becoming. I finished the bottle of wine and cried until I fell asleep on the couch. When I woke up at 3 in the morning, my face was swollen and my head was pounding. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. I barely recognized the person staring back at me. On January 15th, 3 weeks after the Christmas disaster, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Juliet. Can we meet? Alone. It's urgent. Please don't tell anyone." I stared at the message for a long time. After what happened at the cafe, I wasn't sure if this was safe. What if Garrett had put her up to this? What if it was some kind of trap? But curiosity and a desperate need for answers made me agree. We arranged to meet at a park on the other side of town, far from anywhere either of our families might go. Juliet was already there when I arrived, sitting on a bench near the duck pond. She looked even worse than before. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wore no makeup. When she saw me, she stood up quickly, looking around nervously. "Thank you for coming," she said. I didn't know who else to turn to. We sat down on the bench. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Juliet said, "I'm leaving him. I filed for divorce yesterday." I turned to her in shock. "You did?" She nodded, tears already streaming down her face. "I can't do this anymore." He didn't stop gambling. Hess lost another $20,000 in the past 3 weeks. He emptied our joint savings account, the college fund's ID set up for the kids, everything. She pulled out her phone and showed me bank statements. Transaction after transaction to online gambling sites and casino cash advances. Last week he told me he was going to a work conference in Seattle. I was suspicious, so I checked his credit card statements. He went to Atlantic City instead. He was at the casinos for 3 straight days while I thought he was in business meetings. Juliet's voice cracked. I can't protect him anymore. I can't let my children grow up thinking this is normal. I have to get them out. She reached into her bag and pulled out a thick manila envelope. This is everything. Bank statements going back 2 years. Casino receipts I found hidden in his car. Emails between him and his gambling friends. Text messages with loan sharks. All of it. She pressed the envelope into my hands. "I'm giving this to you because you deserve to know the truth, and because I need you to help me stop him from hurting anyone else." My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Page after page of evidence. But one set of documents made my blood run cold. There were printed emails between Garrett and someone named Maxwell, dated from June of last year, months before Head proposed the Hawaii trip. I read one email out loud, my voice shaking. "Maxwell, my family is loaded with cash, but they're careful with it. I'm thinking. I'll tell them I'm planning a big vacation, collect money from everyone, then tell them the money got lost in a bad investment. They'll feel guilty and give me more to make up for it. What do you think?" Maxwell's response was enthusiastic. "Genius plan, man. Hit up your sister first. Single women are easy targets. They're desperate to feel needed." I felt like I'd been doused with ice water. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a gambling addiction spiraling out of control in the moment. This was premeditated fraud. Garrett had planned for months to steal from his family. The Hawaii trip was never real. It was always a scam. He targeted me specifically. I whispered. Juliet nodded miserably. "I found those emails 2 days ago. That's when I knew I had to leave. That's when I knew there was no saving him." We sat together on that bench for over an hour while I read through everything. There were text messages where Garrett bragged to his friends about how easy it was to manipulate stupid family members. There were emails to loan sharks promising payment as soon as I drained my parents' retirement account. The cruelty and calculation in every word made me feel physically ill. "I'm taking the kids to my mother's house in California," Juliet said. I've already hired a divorce attorney. But Harper, you need to do something with this information. Hes going to keep hurting people. Hes already talking about asking your parents for a loan against their house. My head snapped up. What? She nodded grimly. I heard him on the phone 3 days ago. Hes planning to tell them he needs money for a business opportunity and ask them to take out a home equity loan. Hes going to take everything from them. I stood up, adrenaline surging through me. I can't let that happen. Juliet stood too. I'm sorry I didn't come forward sooner. I was scared. And I was ashamed. But I'm done being silent. We hugged. 2 women who'd both been victimized by the same man. Finally standing together. As I drove home, I called Paige, my closest friend and co-worker at the hospital. Paige had been my rock through all of this, listening to me vent during our breaks, bringing me coffee when I looked particularly exhausted. I told her about the evidence Juliet had given me. Oh my God, Harper. This is serious. This is criminal fraud, Paige said. You need to talk to a lawyer. Like, immediately. She gave me the name of an attorney she knew, a man named Clarence who specialized in family disputes and financial crimes. I called his office that afternoon. His secretary squeezed me in for a consultation the next morning. When I met Clarence, a silver-haired man in his 50s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, I spread all the evidence across his conference room table. He spent an hour reading through everything, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. Finally, he sat back and folded his hands. You have an exceptionally strong case for civil fraud, he said. These emails alone show intent and premeditation. The question is, do you want to pursue this? Suing family members is messy. It's emotionally devastating. It will likely permanently destroy your relationships with your parents and siblings. Are you prepared for that? I thought about my father closing the door in my face. My mother suggesting I was jealous. Bryn telling me to let it go. They'd already abandoned me. What did I have left to lose? I want justice, I said firmly. Not just for me, but to stop him from hurting anyone else. Especially my parents. Clarence nodded slowly. Then let's do this the right way. Clarence helped me prepare for what he called a family mediation session, though I knew it would be more like a trial. I sent a formal letter to my parents requesting a family meeting to discuss important financial matters. I didn't give details, but I made it clear this was serious and everyone needed to be present. My mother called me, her voice icy. Harper, if this is another one of your attempts to attack your brother, we're not interested. I kept my voice calm. Mom, I have information that affects the financial security of this entire family. You need to hear it. I'm bringing my attorney. That last sentence must have scared her because she agreed, though she sounded furious. The meeting was set for Saturday afternoon at my parents' house. When Clarence and I arrived, everyone was already there. My father sat in his recliner, arms crossed. My mother perched on the edge of the couch, her face tight with disapproval. Bryn sat in the corner looking uncomfortable. Garrett stood by the fireplace again, his power position. When he saw Clarence, his eyes narrowed. What the hell is this? You're bringing lawyers to a family meeting. I set my briefcase on the coffee table and opened it. Everyone needs to see something. I began laying out printed copies of the bank statements, emails, casino receipts, and text messages. Eid made complete packets for each person. For the past 6 months, all of you have been operating under false information. Garrett told us he invested our Hawaii money in cryptocurrency and lost it. That was a lie. Garrett's face flushed red. Harper, stop this right now. You're embarrassing yourself. I ignored him and continued. The truth is that Garrett never intended to book a Hawaii vacation. He planned from the beginning to steal our money to pay gambling debts, has been gambling for over 2 years and has lost more than $100,000, my mother gasped. My father's face went pale. Bryn picked up the packet in front of her and started reading. I pulled out the most damning email and read it aloud, my voice steady despite my pounding heart. This email is from Garrett to his friend Maxwell, dated June 10th of last year. Maxwell, my family is loaded with cash, but they're careful with it. I'm thinking you'll tell them I'm planning a big vacation, collect money from everyone, then tell them the money got lost in a bad investment. They'll feel guilty and give me more to make up for it. What do you think? Maxwell responds, genius plan, man. Hit up your sister first. Single women are easy targets. The silence in the room was deafening. My mother's hand went to her mouth. Garrett, tell me this isn't real. Tell me she made this up. Garrett's jaw clenched. Those emails are fake. Harper probably created them on her computer. You can fake anything these days. Clarence spoke for the first time, his voice calm and professional. Mr. Garrett. I'm attorney Clarence Walsh. These documents have been authenticated by a forensic IT specialist. The email headers, IP addresses, and timestamps are all legitimate. Your ex-wife Juliet provided them directly from your shared computer. They're very real. Garrett's face went from red to purple. Ex-wife? Juliet and I aren't divorced. Clarence pulled out another document. She filed on January 14th. The papers were served to you at your office on January 16th. According to these records, you refused to sign them. Garrett was losing control. His carefully constructed facade was cracking. This is insane. You're all insane. I'm the victim here. I have a disease. Gambling addiction is a medical condition, and instead of helping me, my own family is attacking me. I stepped closer to him, my voice hard. You don't get to play the victim. You deliberately planned to defraud your family. You specifically targeted me because you thought it'd be easy to manipulate. You called me easy target. Those last two words came out as a hiss. Garrett's eyes flashed with rage. He moved toward me suddenly, his hand raised. You've always been jealous of me. Since we were kids. You couldn't stand that I was smarter, more successful, better than you in every way. His voice was a roar now. My father jumped up to restrain him, but Garrett was beyond reason. You're nothing, Garrett screamed at me. You're a pathetic, lonely woman making $50,000 a year in your dead-end job with your dead-end life. You have nothing. You are nothing. I'm the success story of this family, and you can't handle it. He grabbed the documents off the table and began tearing them up, throwing the pieces in the air. These are lies! All lies. He picked up a chair and threw it across the room. It hit the wall with a crash. My mother screamed. Clarence stepped between Garrett and me, his voice firm. Mr. Garrett, I suggest you calm down immediately, or I will call the police. That seemed to break through Garrett's rage. He stood there panting, his chest heaving, pieces of torn paper scattered around him like snow. Then Juliet walked in through the front door. No one had noticed her car pulling up outside. She looked at Garrett with utter contempt. It's all true, she said quietly. Every single word Harper said is true. I lived with your lies for 2 years. I watched you destroy our family, steal from your children, and manipulate everyone who loved you. And I'm done protecting you. The look on Garrett's face when he saw Juliet was something he'll never forget. It was the look of someone whose entire world had just collapsed. He knew head lost. He looked around the room at all of us. My father's face was etched with betrayal and heartbreak. My mother was crying silently, her shoulders shaking. Bryn was staring at the documents in her lap, tears rolling down her cheeks. Garrett's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Then he turned and walked out of the house. We heard his car start and the squeal of tires as he drove away. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then my father said in a broken voice, "How did we not see this? How did we let this happen?" I wanted to say because you chose to believe him over me, but I kept silent. The truth was painful enough without me adding to it. My mother looked up at me, her face red and blotchy from crying. Harper, I owe you an apology, a huge apology. We should have listened to you. We should have believed you. I'm so sorry. The words I'd been desperate to hear for weeks, but somehow they didn't feel as satisfying as I'd imagined. I just felt tired and sad. Bryn stood up and walked over to me. I'm sorry too. He gave me that $1,000 and I let myself be bought. I was a coward. I should have stood by you. I nodded slowly. I appreciate that. But I need some time. Clarence began collecting the remaining intact documents. He'll be filing a civil lawsuit on Harper's behalf within the week. Garrett will be served with papers. I recommend that none of you have contact with him until this is resolved. My father nodded numbly. As Clarence and I left, I turned back to look at my family one more time. They looked smaller somehow, diminished by betrayal and truth. I didn't know when or if I'd see them again. If I thought Garrett would quietly accept defeat, I was naive. The lawsuit was filed on Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, Garrett had launched a full-scale counterattack. He posted a long statement on Facebook, carefully crafted to paint himself as a victim of mental illness, being persecuted by a vindictive sibling. My sister is suing me because I made financial mistakes while suffering from severe depression and gambling addiction. Instead of helping me get the medical treatment I desperately need, she's trying to ruin my life. She's going after my job, my livelihood, and my ability to provide for my children. This is what happens when someone chooses money over love and forgiveness. The post was shared hundreds of times. The comments section filled with support for Garrett and venom aimed at me. She sounds like a horrible person. Kicking a man when he's down, that's low. Family is supposed to help each other, not destroy each other. Garrett had successfully reframed the entire narrative. He wasn't a con artist who had deliberately stolen from his family. He was a sick man being attacked by his cruel sister. The lie was so much more appealing than the complicated truth. But Garrett wasn't done. He called my extended family, giving them his version of events. My Aunt Emma called me, her voice shrill with anger. How dare you sue your own brother? He's sick. He needs help. And you're trying to take what little he has left. You should be ashamed of yourself. I tried to explain about the premeditated fraud, the emails, the evidence. She cut me off. I don't want to hear your excuses. You're dead to me. And she hung up. Similar calls came from other relatives. Uncle Theodore, Cousin Miranda, my grandmother, my father's mother, who was 92 years old and didn't fully understand what was happening but knew that Harper is causing trouble for Garrett. Then Garrett escalated in a way I didn't expect. He sent an email to the Human Resources Department at the hospital where I worked. The email claimed I was mentally unstable and going through a breakdown, and that the hospital should be aware that I was making false accusations about family members and might not be fit to provide patient care. I was called into a meeting with my supervisor and an HR representative. They asked me to explain the situation. I did my best, but I could see the doubt in their eyes. One of their nurses was involved in a public family scandal that involved lawsuits and accusations of fraud. Even if they believed me, it'd become a liability. We're not taking any action against you at this time, my supervisor said carefully. But we need you to be aware that your personal life is starting to affect your professional reputation. We trust you. But we need this situation to be resolved quickly and quietly. I left that meeting feeling humiliated and vulnerable. Garrett was systematically destroying every part of my life. My family had abandoned me. My extended relatives hated me. Now my job was in jeopardy. I went home that night and sat in my car in the parking lot of my apartment building for an hour, unable to find the energy to go inside. 2 days later, my mother called. I'd been avoiding calls from my parents, not ready to face them yet, but I answered this one. Harper. My mother said, her voice gentle but firm. I've been thinking a lot about everything. I know what Garrett did was wrong. I know that now. But he's still my son. He's still your brother. And I'm asking you, begging you to drop the lawsuit. My heart sank. Mom, no! He needs to face consequences. Her voice hardened. If you go through with this lawsuit, it will destroy him. He'll lose his job. He might even face criminal charges. His children will suffer. Is that what you want? To hurt innocent children. He stole from me, I said, my voice rising. He planned it. He targeted me deliberately. My mother sighed. I understand you're angry, but revenge won't bring your money back. Forgiveness is the path to healing. If you truly love this family, you'll drop the charges and we can all move forward together. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're asking me to just let him get away with it? After everything he's done? There was a long pause. Then my mother said quietly, I'm asking you to choose family over pride. If you don't drop this lawsuit, I'm not sure our relationship can survive it. The ultimatum hung in the air. Choose my integrity or choose my mother. I can't believe you're saying this to me, I whispered. My mother's voice was cold. Then I guess you've made your choice. She hung up. I sat there holding the phone, tears streaming down my face. Even armed with undeniable proof of Garrett's guilt, even after everything I'd been through, my own mother was still choosing him. That night I sat in my empty apartment with all the lights off. I opened my laptop and pulled up the email draft to my lawyer. Dear Clarence, I've decided to withdraw my complaint. Please terminate all legal proceedings immediately. My finger hovered over the send button. I thought about Garrett's smug face when Head walked out of my parents' house. I thought about the emails where Head called me an easy target. I thought about the 2 years of savings I'd never get back. I thought about my parents losing their house if Garrett talked them into a loan. And then I thought about myself, about who I'd be if I backed down now. Would I ever be able to look at myself in the mirror? Would I spend the rest of my life regretting this moment of weakness? I closed the laptop without sending the email. The next morning I called Clarence. I want to move forward. Do whatever it takes. Garrett sent me one final message that week. It came via text at 2 a.m. You're going to regret this, Harper. I'll make sure you lose everything. Your job, your reputation, your family. By the time I'm done with you, you'll wish you'd never been born. You're nothing. You've always been nothing. And soon everyone will know it. I saved the text message and forwarded it to Clarence. Is this enough to add harassment to the charges? I asked. Clarence replied, absolutely. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Juliet called me on a Friday evening in late February. Harper, I found something else. You need to hear this. She explained that while packing up her things from the house Shed once shared with Garrett, Shed found a digital voice recorder hidden in his desk drawer. On it were several recordings Garrett had made, apparently practicing conversations or venting to himself. One recording was particularly damning. Juliet sent me the audio file. I listened to it with Clarence on speakerphone. Garrett's voice came through clearly. My family is so incredibly stupid. They believed every single word I said. The Hawaii scam worked perfectly. I collected $30,000 and now am bleeding them for even more. My sister is the easiest target. She's so desperate for approval, so desperate to be the good daughter. I can manipulate her forever. Take everything she has and she'll still come crawling back begging for family reconciliation. It's almost too easy. Then Garrett laughed, a cold, cruel sound. Once this lawsuit nonsense blows over, I'll do it again. Different scam, same suckers. My parents have equity in their house, Bryn has her business, Harper probably has some retirement account I can access. I'll squeeze every last drop out of them, and then disappear to Mexico or Costa Rica. Start fresh. They'll never see it coming. When the recording ended, Clarence whistled low. That's premeditation, ongoing conspiracy, and intent to commit further fraud. This changes everything. The civil trial was scheduled for mid-March. The days leading up to it were some of the hardest of my life. Garrett continued his social media campaign against me, posting daily about his mental health struggles and my heartless persecution. But Clarence had advised me not to engage, not to respond, to let the evidence speak for itself in court. On the day of the trial, I wore a simple navy blue dress and pulled my hair back into a neat bun. I looked professional, composed, nothing like the emotional wreck I felt inside. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. The judge, a stern-looking woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Walsh, reviewed the evidence Clarence presented. The emails detailing the premeditated scam. the bank statements showing the gambling losses, the voice recording where Garrett admitted to ongoing fraud and future plans. Juliet testified, her voice shaking but determined, about the years of lies and the devastation to their children. Garrett's attorney tried to argue diminished capacity due to gambling addiction, but Judge Walsh wasn't buying it. "Mr. Garrett," the judge said, looking directly at him over her reading glasses, "gambling addiction may be a mitigating factor in impulsive decisions, but the evidence shows extensive planning and calculated manipulation over a period of months. That demonstrates clear intent and consciousness of wrongdoing." She ruled that Garrett had to repay the full $30,000 taken from the family, plus 18% annual interest for the time the money had been withheld. Additionally, he was ordered to pay $5,000 in damages for emotional distress, plus all of my legal fees. The total came to just over $42,000. But there was more. During the discovery process, Clarence had found evidence that Garrett had been embezzling small amounts from his employer's accounts to fund his gambling. Had been careful, taking only a few $100s at a time, but over 2 years it added up to nearly $20,000. Clarence reported this to Garrett's employer and to law enforcement. Within a week of the civil judgment, Garrett was fired from his job. Criminal charges were filed for embezzlement and fraud. Faced with the possibility of several years in prison, Garrett accepted a plea deal that included probation, restitution, mandatory gambling, addiction treatment, and community service. When I heard the news, I expected to feel triumph or vindication. Instead, I just felt empty and sad. Garrett had destroyed his own life, and in doing so, had damaged all of ours. My father called me a few days after the verdict. "Harper," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "your mother and I want to talk to you. Can you come over?" I agreed, though I was nervous. When I arrived at their house, they both hugged me tightly. We sat in the living room and my father spoke first. "We owe you more than an apology. We failed you as parents. When you came to us with concerns, we should have listened. When you presented us with evidence, we should have believed you. Instead, we chose comfort over truth. We chose to believe Garrett's lies because they were easier than facing reality." My mother took my hand. "I called you jealous. I told you that you were tearing the family apart. But you were the only one brave enough to stand up to him. You were the only one willing to do the hard thing. I'm so deeply sorry. Harper." They told me they'd started going to therapy, both individually and together, to work through the betrayal and their own enabling behaviors. They were learning about manipulation tactics and how families can become dysfunctional without realizing it. "We want to rebuild our relationship with you," my father said. "If you'll give us that chance." I nodded slowly. "I want that too. But it's going to take time. I've been hurt badly, not just by Garrett but by both of you." They understood. We agreed to start slowly, maybe a coffee date once a week, and build from there. Bryn reached out to me in April. We met at a neutral location, a bookstore cafe neither of us usually visited. She looked like she'd been crying for weeks. "I've been in therapy," she told me, "learning about codependency and enabling. I realized that by accepting Garrett's money and staying silent, I was part of the problem. I chose comfort over doing the right thing. And I'm sorry. I know sorry isn't enough, but it's all I have." We talked for 2 hours. She told me about her own struggles with feeling like she always had to keep the peace, about her fear of conflict, about her tendency to side with whoever seemed strongest in the moment. "I'm working on it," she said. "I want to be braver. Like you." As for Garrett, I haven't spoken to him since the trial. I heard through my parents that he moved to a small apartment in a different part of the city, working as a warehouse clerk while paying off his restitution. Juliet got full custody of the children. "They're doing better now," she tells me when we talk occasionally. "They're in therapy too, learning to cope with what their father did. Sometimes I wonder if Garrett understands what he destroyed. If he lies awake at night, thinking about the family who loved him and trusted him. But mostly, I try not to think about him at all." In June, I made a decision. I needed a fresh start, somewhere I could rebuild my life without the constant reminders of what had happened. I applied for a nursing position at a hospital in Seattle and was offered the job. The pay was better and the city felt like a place where I could breathe again. Before I left Portland, I had one last dinner with my parents and Bryn. It was awkward at first, stilted conversation and long silences. But by the end of the evening, we were laughing at an old family story, and for a moment, it felt like maybe we could be okay. Seattle welcomed me with rain and the smell of coffee. I found a small apartment in the Capitol Hill neighborhood with big windows and wood floors. I made friends at the hospital. Genuine friends who knew nothing about my past and accepted me for who I was now. 2 nurses named Chloe and Evelyn became my closest companions. We went hiking on weekends in the Cascades, tried new restaurants, attended concerts. Slowly, I remembered what it felt like to be happy. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. I volunteered at a women's shelter on my days off. I built a life that was mine, not defined by family or trauma or betrayal. One Saturday morning in September, I got a letter from Bryn. It was handwritten on pretty stationery. Harper, I'm writing instead of calling because I want you to have time to process this without feeling pressured to respond immediately. I've been in therapy for 6 months now. I'm learning so much about myself and about our family dynamics. I realize that I played a role in enabling Garrett's behavior for years, always making excuses for him, always trying to smooth things over. I'm learning to set boundaries and speak truth even when it's uncomfortable. I'm so sorry for how I treated you. You were the only one with the courage to stand up to him, and I threw you under the bus to save myself. I hope someday you can forgive me. I understand if you need more time. I'm here, whenever you're ready. Love, Bryn. I wrote back a week later. Dear Bryn, I forgive you. I understand fear and I understand family pressure. I know you weren't trying to hurt me. You were trying to survive in an impossible situation. I'd like to stay in touch if you're open to that. Maybe we can visit each other sometime. I'm building a new life up here, but I'd like you to be part of it. Love, Harper. We started emailing regularly. She told me about her therapy sessions and her own journey of healing. I told her about Seattle and my new friends and the paintings I was creating. One October evening, I drove to the beach at sunset. The Washington coast is wild and beautiful, nothing like the gentle shores of Oregon. I stood on the sand watching the sun sink into the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. I thought about the Hawaii trip that never happened, the vacation that was supposed to bring our family together but instead tore us apart, and I realized something. I'd found something better than a week in Hawaii. I'd found myself. I'd found my voice. I'd found the strength to stand up for what was right, even when it cost me everything. I thought about all the people who'd turned their backs on me during those dark winter months. Some of them had come back, apologized, tried to make amends. Others never did. And I was okay with that. I didn't need everyone to understand or approve of my choices. I'd learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about who stands by you when everything falls apart. It's about who believes you when everyone else calls you a liar. It's about who shows up, who does the work, who chooses love even when it's hard. Sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones closest to you, the ones who know exactly which buttons to push and which wounds to reopen. And that's a hard truth to accept. But accepting it doesn't mean you're bitter or broken. It means you're wise. It means you've learned to protect yourself while still remaining open to real connection. I don't know if I'll ever have a relationship with Garrett again. My therapist says I should leave that door open, that people can change and healing is possible. But she also says I have no obligation to let someone back into my life who's proven they'll hurt me. That's a decision I can make on my own timeline. Or never make at all. My parents and I talk on the phone every Sunday now. The conversations are getting easier. They're doing their own work, facing their own demons. Last month, my mother said something that made me cry. Harper, I'm proud of you. I should have said that sooner. I should have said it always. But I'm saying it now. You're brave and strong, and you stood up for yourself when no one else would. You're remarkable." Those words meant more to me than she'll ever know. As the sun disappeared below the horizon and the sky turned to twilight, I pulled out my phone and took a picture of the view. Not for social media, just for me. A reminder of this moment, this place, this version of myself who survived the worst and came out stronger. I opened a new note in my phone and wrote, "Lessons learned. Trust yourself even when everyone else doubts you. Your peace is worth protecting at any cost. Real family shows up when it matters. And sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away from people who refuse to treat you with respect." I don't know what my future holds. Maybe someday I'll fall in love and build a family of my own. Maybe I'll travel to Hawaii on my own terms, with people who truly care about me. Maybe I'll reconcile fully with my parents and Bryn and build something new from the ashes of what we lost. Or maybe I'll keep building this life I've started in Seattle, surrounded by chosen family and hard-won peace. What I do know is this. I'm not the same person who stood in my parents' living room on Christmas Eve, confused and hurt and desperate for approval. That Harper was willing to sacrifice her own truth to keep everyone comfortable. This Harper knows that some truths are worth fighting for, even when the fight costs you everything you thought you wanted. I turned away from the ocean and walked back to my car. The air smelled like salt and pine. Seagulls called overhead. And for the first time in months, I felt genuinely at peace. Not the fragile peace of pretending everything is fine, but the solid, unshakable peace of knowing exactly who you are and what you stand for. That's the real gift Garrett gave me, though hell never understand it. He tried to break me, to manipulate me, to reduce me to nothing, but instead, he forced me to discover just how strong I really am, and that's something no one can ever take away. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and standing up for yourself? Have you faced a situation where telling the truth cost you relationships? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who might need to hear this message today. Remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. It's dignity. It's knowing that your worth isn't determined by other people's inability to see it. Thank you so much for watching and for taking this journey with me. I hope wherever you are in your own story, you find the courage to stand in your truth. Take care of yourselves. You deserve peace, respect, and people who show up for you the way you show up for them. Until next time, remember that your story matters, and you are never alone. Sending strength and love to all of you.